Hi. So this morning I wanted to talk about when a dream dies, and what came to my mind, other than the personal story which I will tell, is the story of Joseph from the Bible. It's found in Genesis 37, and I'm going to start reading at verse 3. Now Israel, Jacob, loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a distinctive multicolored tunic. His brothers saw that their father loved Joseph more than all of his brothers, so they hated him and could not find it within themselves to speak to him on friendly terms. Now Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. He said to them, "Please listen to the details of this dream which I have dreamed. We brothers were binding sheaves of grain stalks in the field, and lo, my sheaf suddenly got up and stood upright and remained standing. And behold, your sheaves stood all around my sheaf and bowed down in respect." His brothers said to him, "Are you actually going to reign over us? Are you really going to rule and govern us as your subjects?" So they hated him even more for telling them about his dreams and for his arrogant words. But Joseph dreamed still another dream, and he told it to his brothers as well. And then it goes on. And if you know the story, his brothers then, because they hated him so much, his brothers sold him into slavery. He was in Egyptian slavery. And then Joseph was the same one who, had this dream, was favored by his father, was sold into slavery, then was in Potiphar's house, and Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him, and he ran away, and then he was in prison because she lied on him, and he was in prison for a long time. And then the baker and the cupbearer were in there, and he interpreted their dreams, and then they were supposed to go back and tell Pharaoh about this man who could interpret dreams and to give him favor, and that didn't happen. And then finally the king had a dream, and Joseph was the only one who could interpret his dream, and so he was released from prison, and he became he was like second in rank in Egypt, and then his brothers eventually, because of a drought in Canaan where they lived, I believe, they had to come over to where he was and buy from him. And indeed, just like his dream foretold, they had to bow down to him in respect, basically, because he was now head over them. And we know the story of Joseph, so if you don't know it, go back to Genesis 37 and read about it. But what I was thinking about is when a dream ends, sometimes Joseph had this dream, and he had many dreams, and I think one of the mistakes he made, and maybe it wasn't a mistake because in God's sovereignty it all came to pass, but one of the mistakes we make as people is that when we have dreams, we tend to we get so excited about our dreams that sometimes we express them to people, and then the people can't receive those dreams for our lives, and they speak things, and sometimes our dreams never ever come to pass because of us prematurely speaking. And then also sometimes stuff happens along our life's journey that causes us to stop dreaming. If I were Joseph, I don't know if I could still believe, because the circumstances in which he found himself would never have indicated that indeed this dream would come to pass. The circumstances were so dire, the circumstances were so contrary to anything that he had dreamed, that he was a slave and he was imprisoned. How is it that this dream that he had, this great mighty dream where his brothers are bowing down to him, where he's reigning, he's in charge, he has authority, how is this dream ever going to come to pass? My situation don't look anything like this dream. And I remember when my last relationship ended, one of my desires from when I was a little girl is to be a wife and a mom. And so you're looking for love in sometimes all the wrong places. But when my last relationship ended, some of the things that were said to me, and because I had given up of myself in such a way, I felt like I can never do this again. I felt like, maybe this relationship story is just not for me. Maybe marriage is definitely not for me. I don't have it to give. And I remember speaking to an older lady at church who was helping me through the situation, and she said, "Yori," I said to her, "I can never do this again. I'll never do this again. I'll never love again. I don't have it to give, And so my dream of becoming somebody's wife was dying in that moment. And she said to me, Yori, you feel that way now because you need to be healed. Once you're healed, you'll feel like you can do this again, and you'll get back to yourself. And I couldn't ever, my situation at the time, it never looked like it could ever happen. And this is now several years since, and I'm still single. But there is a belief in my heart that this thing will come to pass. But sometimes it doesn't happen that way. Sometimes stuff happens to us along our journey that causes us to stop believing and causes us to stop dreaming. And I want to encourage us today to remember that if the dream that we have in our heart came from God, like the dream that Joseph had came directly from God, and so no matter what odds were against him, the dream had to come to pass. The prophetic word that God had given him in his dream, the vision that God had shown him through his dream, had to come to pass because it came from God. And God is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. Whatever he says must come to pass. He doesn't speak in vain. And so the things that God says have to come to pass. The dreams that he puts in our hearts that are purposeful, that are aligned with his will, must come to pass. And I started to see Romans 8:28 in a new way. It says, all things work together for the good of them who love the Lord and who are the called according to his purpose. So once there is purpose in the thing that God puts in our heart, it has to come to pass, no matter what the circumstance looks like. So Joseph was sold into slavery. Joseph was imprisoned. But ultimately, the thing that God said had to come to pass because God spoke it, and God cannot lie. So I want to encourage us this morning to dream again. Get back into the presence of the Lord and dream again. Take up back that notebook, take up back that journal, read through it again, the dreams that you used to write down, the things that you used to believe and you don't believe anymore. Believe again, because if those dreams came from God, they have to come to pass. They must come to pass, because all things work together for the good of them who love the Lord and who are the called according to his purpose. So just like how Joseph's dream came to pass in the ultimate stage, even though nothing would have indicated, based on his circumstances, nothing would have indicated that this thing is going to happen, if God said it, it will. So be encouraged. Have a great day. Bye.